The Seattle Seahawks have to dominate the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, because if you are going to be a playoff team in this league, just like I think the Seahawks can be, you cannot play with your food when you are playing a lesser opponent. Speaking of a lesser opponent, we have got to show up as fans. Right now on Seahawks Today, we are trailing Saints now when it comes to our sub-battle this week. We cannot fall behind. Show the New Orleans Saints fans what the 12s are all about, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into the video. I'm your host of Seahawks Today, Will Ortner, and we've got to break down the Seahawks versus the New Orleans Saints Week 3 NFL game going on this Sunday. You are the favorite in this one by more than a touchdown, Seattle. You gotta show up. But to show up, your best players need to be available. So let's go take a look over at the doctor's office. Right now, Devon Witherspoon still seems to be a game time decision. I would personally list him as questionable for this game, dealing with an MCL sprain. Now, on the bright side, you did see Devon Witherspoon out and running around on Sunday when the Seahawks took on the Steelers. I'm going to say that's the bright side, because it shows you that he was in preparation and almost available for you last week. If you think that you are going to be able to play him this week, that is a good sign. I believe that he will be back soon. I do not know if he will be back for this game, but I do like what Mike McDonald said when he was talking to Brock and Salk on Monday, where he believed that Witherspoon is not the type of player that you need to have practice throughout the week to go and play. He's someone that they might rest, give him plenty of time to come back as healthy as possible for Sunday. On the bright side, that secondary looked pretty freaking good without him. I'm not saying that they're better without him. I'm saying that they're going to be able to tread water, maybe a little bit more so, if he's unable to go. Look at Darian Kendrick. He came in and he's your third nickel right now. Absolutely balled out against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had an interception. If he had his hands like this instead of like this, he probably has 2 interceptions in that game against Aaron Rodgers, a future Hall of Famer. I loved what I saw from the player that you picked up after final roster cuts. Kobe Bryant was flying around making plays, had the final interception in that Pittsburgh Steelers game. He's also diving into the run game. That's someone that you might see potentially filling in that nickel spot in certain situations as well. And then Josh Jobe. He's our little secret right now. We're not talking enough about him in the Seahawks media, let alone the national media, about how well he's playing at that cornerback spot. He went into the season kind of being that guy of like, will he be that third cornerback in? Will he even be a starter? Right now, he's been your best starter through 2 games. I didn't even get to mention Julian Love. That's how freaking good this secondary has played. The other player that you have in the doctor's office right now, that's Nick Emmanwori. There's a little bit of a different situation for Emmanwori because he's dealing with a high ankle sprain, but he doesn't have the same cachet that Devon Witherspoon has had with Mike McDonald. And what I mean by that is McDonald did say he would prefer to have Emmanwori practice before he has an opportunity to play in a game. On the bright side, it does sound like Emmanwori will be able to give it a go later on this week with the high ankle sprain. That doesn't mean that I'm coming in saying, hey, I think he's going to be able to play in this game. High ankle sprains are tricky. There's a reason why they always say, hey, sometimes you'd rather have a broken bone than having a high ankle sprain. It just seems to kind of stick around with you for a while. In my eyes, I'm totally okay with Nick Emmanwori taking an extra week and coming back 100% healthy. That being said, I am excited to see if he's able to get on the practice report as a limited participant. Thank goodness he didn't end up on the IR. We're going to get into the Saints injuries, but before I do that, this episode today is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you could cash in. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. I was playing Prize Picks this weekend. Just saying, I should have used the flex play option. Now, for this Sunday, I've got a 3-pick power play. Jordan Love, he's going up against that vaunted Cleveland defense. I think he's going to get more than 232.5 passing yards. Matthew Stafford, unfortunately, I wish ill on the Rams. I think he gets less than 245.5 passing yards. And your Sam Darnold going against the Saints defense, more than 212.5 passing yards. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Now we're diving into the Saints injuries, and these were your 2 players that missed the last game kind of at the last minute for the Saints. Chase Young, the strong defensive end, he had a calf issue, kind of still dealing with that. And then Trevor Penning, he's been fighting through an ankle injury. So you've got a defensive end that may or may not be able to go, still kind of on that questionable train. And then Trevor Penning, he's been out for a while now, about a month, dealing with a ankle injury that he had suffered early on in the preseason. Got to be able to take advantage of those miscues there. Now, my matchup to watch in this one, can the Seahawks defensive line dominate the offensive line of the Saints? Now, the Saints haven't been playing well this year, but they also haven't been playing bad either. They're in a lot of games right now. Can you suffocate them and get them to quit early? Byron Murphy has to continue to show out, absolutely dominant in his week 2 performance. And frankly, this is what we've been expecting out of him since you took him in the first round a couple of years ago. 1.5 sacks, that's already more sacks than he had last year. I'm not asking for him to be a double-digit sack guy. That's not fair. What I am asking him to do is stop the run. And if you are able to stop Alvin Kamara and force Spencer Rattler to try and beat you down the field, oh boy, do I like how that looks for you. Leonard Williams, big cat, enough is already said about him. Obviously, his week 1 stat line was insane. He followed that up with a pretty solid game in game 2 against the Steelers. If he can continue to get after the quarterback the way that he was from that defensive end position. Look, he wasn't getting sacks against the 49ers, but he was constantly making Brock Purdy nervous. He was making him run around, and he wasn't able to sit in the pocket, step into his throws, and make big-time plays. Aside from one lucky chuck-up that Reek Woolen wasn't able to knock down. In my eyes, if Leonard Williams is doing that against the Saints, you're going to win. Leonard Williams probably going to get more sacks on that sack total. It also frees up the edge rushers when you have Leonard Williams, Jarran Reed, and Byron Murphy playing like they have the last 2 weeks. Mina Kimes came out and said that this defensive line is special, and I could not agree with her more. We haven't even gotten to talk about DeMarcus Lawrence yet, and the way that DeMarcus Lawrence has been playing on the edge is basically the unsung hero. He hasn't gotten a sack yet, but what he has done is created edge pressure, and he hasn't allowed running backs to get to the outside of him. That is huge. Yeah, you have a lot of injuries in the secondary right now, but the way this defensive line is playing, the way that this front seven is playing, teams aren't even able to try and take advantage of those injuries. You should be able to hold the Saints under 17 points. You held the 49ers to 17 points. Frankly, should have held them under that. You were able to hold the Pittsburgh Steelers to 17 points. And frankly, if your offense didn't put you in a bad spot a couple of times, you would have held them under that. The Saints are averaging 17 points right now a game. You can hold them under that number, especially if this big fella is doing that flex option a lot after plays. On the offensive side of scrimmage, your offensive line has to be nails. I feel like they've played fairly well in the first couple of games that you've had this year, but they are going to get a true test against this Saints team. This Saints defensive line already has 8 sacks on the year, and when I was looking at it, I'm thinking, wow, Cam Jordan, dude's going off. It isn't just Cam Jordan. Defensive end Karl Granderson, 3.5 sacks already on the year. That is absurd. And I think that you've played fairly well on your offensive line, especially at the tackle spots. Yes, Abraham Lucas has given up a sack in each game. He gave him up to Nick Bosa and TJ Watt. Charles Cross on the other side, I'm telling you right now, start it. You heard it here first. Pay that man. He hasn't let anyone get into the backfield. This offensive line on the two edges has got to stand up and stand strong for you. Jalen Sundell as well. Let's drink a little bit of mustard, maybe some pickle juice beforehand. Got to make sure that you're not cramping on Sundays. My score prediction for this one is Seattle needs to roll. It needs to be a 14-point game. Seahawks 24, Saints 10. The way that you do this, you dominate the time of possession. You run the football to set up the play action pass. That's going to alleviate some of the pressure on your offensive line because they're not going to face as many blitz options from the Saints. It's also going to stop the defensive ends from being able to pin their ears back and just go at you. If you're able to win this game and win the game in the fashion that you should, I think we're going to be having a very celebratory victory Monday. Now, I want you to predict. I like to listen. I go into the comments and I read all of your mean tweets that you say about me and some of your nice ones. I do appreciate those of you who leave nice comments, but I want to know what you think. Do you think the Seahawks are going to win? By how much? If you're a Saints fan, maybe you think you will win. How many points do you think the Saints will win by? You let me know in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you later.